if I may, because it's one of my favorite stories from the Gospels, because it's so from left field. These rather mysterious wise men, so-called magi, the word magi actually gives us the word magician, because they were magi, they were looking at things, and they were clearly intrigued by something that they had seen in the natural world. And this phenomenon of the natural world had inspired them to go on a journey of curiosity to find out its meaning. A few years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago, Shirley and I were very privileged to go on a trip to see the Northern Lights. I don't know whether any of you have seen the Northern Lights, but we were very privileged to go on this trip. And we had all various lectures about what to expect, because it's all due to the flares of the sun coming down and all the rest of it. And we were warned that we might not have such a very good experience, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And we went a long journey, and it was very cold, and we stood out in minus something, whatever it was, temperatures till late at night, waiting for the wretched things to appear, because unlike other natural phenomenon, you have to wait for the Northern Lights to appear. You can't just go and see it like you can a waterfall or the Grand Canyon or the Taj Mahal. You just turn up and there it is. With the Northern Lights, you have to wait for it. And so sure enough, we stood there getting increasingly cold. And then suddenly it happened. And we looked up, and there was this like green curtain coming down from the sky. About half the sky was taken by this green curtain. And then suddenly this green curtain started billowing like this. And it slowly, over a period of about 20 minutes, moved across the sky. And every so often, it seemed that there were things darting out from behind the curtain and going back in again. And it was incredible. Shirley and I were both moved to tears by this incredible natural phenomenon. Best thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, the wise men, the Magi, clearly looked up into the sky and saw something that inspired them, and they wanted to find out some more. So I think they were wise because they were asking the question, where is he? What is the meaning of this phenomenon that we have just seen? And we know they set off on a long journey to find the meaning of what this meant. Surely it resonated with them. Somehow it must mean something. And so they set off on a long journey. And interestingly, who do they encounter on this journey? The first people was King Herod, wasn't it, in the story? He obviously represents the government, authorities, political power. And they are suspicious. They feel threatened because they say, where is the one who is born King of the Jews? This clearly speaks to somebody more powerful than any of us. And clearly for the government, for Herod, he was threatened because, oh dear, there is somebody who threatens my position, who's greater than I, one to whom I owe my allegiance. And I think many people today do feel threatened by the idea that there might be a God, somebody who is greater than them, to whom they owe allegiance. Because in some ways it's more convenient if there isn't a God. We can just get on with our own life and do our own thing without any sense of having to account for ourselves, of having to acknowledge someone greater than ourselves. The next people wise men meet are the religious leaders. And interestingly, in the story, the religious leaders know the answer to the question, where is he to be born? Where is this King of Jews? And the religious leaders say, well, we know. Look in Micah chapter 5 and verse 2, you'll find the answer. It's going to be in Bethlehem. The religious leaders know the answer, but don't do anything about it. Do they go to Bethlehem with the wise men? Oh, we'll come with you. Let's find the Messiah. Do they? Do they not? And often religious people, we know the answer, but we don't do anything. We keep it to ourselves. We're happy just to accumulate knowledge or whatever it might be, but it has no effect on how we live or whatever. So the wise men leave, and as we know, they come and find Jesus. They leave their gifts there, which is why many preachers say, if there was 3 wise women, they'd have left far more useful gifts, than gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Left a casserole, or something useful, rather than just random stuff that the wise men left. But they worship Jesus, and then they leave. I wonder, when they write this up on TripAdvisor afterwards to review the trip that they'd done to find out who was the King of the Jews, were they not a little disappointed? What did they actually find after all their, presumably, days, weeks of journeying? I must admit, wasn't it slightly disappointing just to find an ordinary couple with a young baby in some back house of some, public house or hotel or whatever? Was that it? Yet they were able to recognize in this baby Jesus the answer to the question, where is he? What is the meaning of this phenomenon that had set us on this journey was found in this baby. And as yet, this baby had done nothing. Now, if you read the Quran, Jesus is mentioned a lot in the Quran, and in the Quran, the birth stories of Jesus have Jesus being born and then being able to speak straight away. And he starts preaching from his cradle. He starts giving insights into the meaning of existence straight away. Now, in the gospel stories, it's not like that. Jesus was a real baby. I don't believe that carol which talks about no crying he makes, because clearly Jesus was an ordinary baby. I'm sure he did cry and had to be comforted because he was a genuinely human person. But my point is that the wise men, the Magi, just found a baby, but recognized in that baby something far more significant. Now, when people are looking for the meaning of perhaps of God or existence or whatever, perhaps they're hoping for something dramatic, something life-changing, something really, fantastic. And actually, if they come to church, they might be a bit disappointed. They find a small group of ordinary people, just like the Magi found a very small group of ordinary people in the stable. But that is because we need to recognize that God is in the normal. God is in the small and unimportant. God seems to be in the trivial as well. Because if we only look for God in the unusual, in the spectacular, then that means God is largely absent. But because we know that God is always present, it was actually Jesus in the stable. He didn't do any miracles, didn't give any profound insight into the nature of existence or anything like that, but they worshipped him and they went home contented, and we know nothing else about them. Tradition has given us names to them and all kinds of things like that, Melchizedek and what all the rest of it is, but that's just myth and legend, tradition trying to elaborate and extend on a story that says nothing else. But here this is Matthew's gospel trying to tell us that Jesus is for all people, not just for the Jews, not just for religious people in the land of Israel at the time, but for everybody. And so perhaps a bit like the wise men, the Magi now, we need to keep asking, where is he? And perhaps we might be able to find him in the ordinary and in the everyday and in the normal. Now, that's my 5 minutes worth, my penny's worth, but because it's Zoom, we can all join in now, can't we? See, so you can shoot me down in flames, you can ask questions, we can discuss it, we can elaborate, take it on. So may I suggest, if you wish, you want to unmute yourselves,